Hello and welcome back to another episode of Chat with Brandy, where we talk personal and business finance, taxes, and how to make money doing what you love. I am your host, bookkeeper and tax preparer Brandy Miron, and this is episode 16. This episode is the final episode of the So You Want to Start a Business series. This is part 4. And like I say, this is the last one. So if you haven't watched episode 13, 14, and 15 yet, I would definitely start there before watching this one. This episode, we're talking about the time you've already launched the business or you've had the baby, you're officially making money and helping people. In this video, I'm going to give my best tips on running and growing the business. So a lot like having a baby, the first few years are rough and they can be really unpredictable. It can be costly, it can be tiring, but there are tried and true methods that can help you be successful and make it as easy as possible for you. So again, I'm sharing my experiences and the collective experiences of my clients. The first part of the video, we're going to focus on my top 5 do's and don'ts of running a business. And then the second part of the video will focus on recurring tasks that you should be on top of as your years progress. So my top 5 do's. So the first one is do be obsessed with time and energy management. So I think pretty much in every video that I've done, I talk about this at some length. It's become so important to me in my life as a business owner, a wife, a mother, a friend, someone who likes to volunteer a lot. Like, you have to have some kind of time management system in place, not only for running your business, but your entire life, just to make sure that you can do it all. I'm not going to lie and say I never get overwhelmed, like I certainly do. And there are times that I feel like there are not enough hours in the day, but I find that planning my days in advance, which again, I talk about in pretty much every video that I do, and implementing the time management skills that I've learned over the years are a huge help for that. Do become a lifelong learner. So I think since starting my business, I've really developed a passion for learning and growing as a person. And I think the more that I have done that over the years, first of all, the easier and more enjoyable it becomes. Secondly, I think most people who would consider themselves lifelong learners would say that the more that you learn, it feels like the less that you know. So it's like an incentive to keep on learning. So obviously in my profession, I'm always trying to stay on top of ever-changing tax laws and things like that, but also just the ins and outs of things like time management and leadership and being a better communicator and things like that, right? Read books, listen to podcasts, take courses. And also there are so many free resources out there. Like, you could literally use only free resources for the rest of your life and never run out. So it doesn't have to be super costly. Do set SMART goals. I spent a lot of time on this in video 9, episode number 9, so I won't spend a lot of time on it now. But this method of setting goals, it makes them a lot more attainable. So I do suggest that video. Do focus on profit. Profit doesn't always mean that you need more sales or chasing more money. Sometimes it can mean cutting expenses or focusing on long-term success and freedom rather than the short-term, like, instant wins. So if your personal financial situation is dire, okay, the chances are your business financial situation is going to not be productive as well. So I would always suggest working on those two things in tandem. Check out episodes 4 and 5 for a lot of information on personal and business finance there, okay? So now these are my top 5 don'ts. Don't get discouraged. Just like raising a child, running a business is a long, winding road. There's tons of peaks and valleys. And like I said, there's going to be times that is going to feel like failure or that you're going to feel like giving up. But I hope that you don't. I hope that you seek advice and that you enjoy the journey and that you realize that with every failure, you're building resilience and you are getting experience and knowledge. Don't get behind on taxes. Okay, the CRA has teeth. Owing money to them or being behind on filing can be extremely stressful, and ultimately it can sink a business. So when you decide to take on the responsibility of being a business owner, you're also taking on the responsibility of being obliged to the tax compliance part of it. Okay, so that part is really important to stay on top of. And I don't mean that to say that you have to do all the work yourself, but make sure that that is a real focus in your business. Okay, don't try to do everything yourself. Use your SWOT analysis, so that strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis that we did a couple episodes ago, to discover what tasks are going to take a lot of energy for you to learn and do well. So would this energy, like, ask yourself, would this energy be better suited doing something else rather than you trying to deal with design or sales or admin tasks or something like that? Like, is that something that you can source out? And it doesn't necessarily need to be a full-time employee. It could be like someone that you subcontract, a really organized friend, or use Fiverr or something along those lines. Or maybe on the personal side of things, like maybe if you feel really comfortable doing all of the tasks within your business, but you feel like your housekeeping is getting you're slacking on the housekeeping side of it, maybe you can trade a service for the housekeeping, or you can trade babysitting or something like that. Just don't feel like you have to wear all the hats. Don't stop evolving. As I've said in previous episodes, your business plan and your goals will change, so expect to change yourself along with it. Okay, something that's a big advantage for small businesses versus a big corporation is the ability to adapt. So if there is a shift in your industry, or let's say there's a change in the economy, it can be a lot harder for a big corporation to adapt to that because they have a lot more moving pieces. They have a lot more staff, and your small business can be a lot more adaptable easily, especially if you have the right attitudes. So just expect to evolve, and don't be afraid of it. Okay, and the last don't forget about customer service. If you think back to why you started this business, then I'm sure there was an element of helping yourself, but also of helping others solve a problem or a need. So I don't want you to lose sight of that. Your clients are literally your lifeblood. So keeping the main focus on them is probably the best thing that you can do for your long-term success. So for me, this means appropriate, timely communication, being a good leader for your staff, that kind of thing is important when thinking about the best part of your business. Like, think about your ideal client and what would be important to them, like what they would consider good customer service. Think about what you consider good customer service and implement that in your business, and always keep that top of mind. Okay? All right, so I've gone through the 5 do's and don'ts. So now I want to talk about the recurring tasks that you should be thinking about as a business owner. So I'm just going to pull in. Okay, so you should be able to see that. Okay, so on a monthly basis, you're going to be dealing with financials. So this is not only your budget. So again, episode 5, we talk about that a lot there, but also your income and expenses. You should be having your financials dealt with on a monthly basis. It's going to make your business so much easier to run if you know the money that's coming in and the money that's going out currently, rather than a year from now when you're doing your taxes. Okay. Also, tracking your budget, so you know if you are overspending somewhere way too much, or if you're bringing in too little income on one side of things, you're going to be able to nip that in the bud, rather than 6 months down the road when you're like, I literally have no money and I don't know what to do, right? So track your, and the other thing too is with the financials, if you haven't already opened a GST account, you're going to want to keep your eye on your gross sales year to date. So that means the total amount of income that you've brought in up from the time that you started until now, because once you reach $30,000, you have to open a GST account. So that's important to track as well. Track your wins and losses for the month. So I just put that here, just like if you're by yourself, even just like a 1-page journal entry to help you keep you focused and centered on not only the negative things or not only the positive things, but you can really look, it's like a mini review. If you have staff, this is a great time, to just kind of have a round table and say, what were your wins? What do you think was the best thing that happened this month? What are things that you think we could change? That kind of thing. Payroll. If you have employees, you're likely going to be on a monthly remittance plan with Canada Revenue Agency. So this means that you'll have to pay your employees monthly or bi-weekly, but also you have to remit your source deductions monthly on the 15th of the following month, okay? And then I have inventory under quarterly. That kind of depends on the volume of inventory you have. Like if you're selling products and you have a lot of inventory, you may want to do your inventory counts more often than quarterly, just to you'll need it for taxes, you'll need it for insurance, but also just for your own if something's gone walking, or if you're running really low on something that takes a long time for it to come in. Like that's important to probably have on a monthly schedule rather than quarterly, but I did put it under quarterly here. Okay, so quarterly I do an entire review, and I did that review in episode 12, so I won't spend too much time, but we basically go through the business plan, we go through the SWOT analysis, we go through everything on a quarterly basis. So if you are interested in that, check out episode 12. And then I put GST under quarterly. It can also be on a monthly or yearly basis, but I find that a lot of new business owners usually tend to go with the quarterly remittance schedule. So that means that every 3 months, your business will have to remit the GST that you've collected less the GST that you've paid out in that quarter. Okay? On an annual basis, we are going to renew our, someone's here. We are going to renew our corporation. So that would be either through your lawyer or it would be at the registry. You'll also, your business license, so if you have like the home-based business license or whatever type of business license you have, that needs to be renewed on an annual basis. And then your insurance policies, if you have a lease, that needs to be renewed. And then of course, taxes. So taxes are on a yearly basis. If you've done your financials on a monthly basis, like I suggested up here, tax time will be so much easier for you because that will all be compiled already. I'm just gonna see my notes here. Also, since you've budgeted for it throughout the year, the tax time shouldn't be a huge burden for you because you will have already saved that money or you've already paid it in installments. In addition to your income and expenses for the year, it's important to note your tax preparer or accountant will need these items. So accounts payable, so what you owe to other people at the end of the year. Accounts receivable, so what people owe to you as of your year end. Your inventory counts, your bank balance, and any liability balances you have, so credit cards or loans, okay? Then the other thing that happens once a year is T-slips. So if you pay employees, they need T4s. If you take dividends as a shareholder, you need a T5. And then if you're in construction and you use subcontractors, then you need to give them a T5013, okay? So those have to be done on an annual basis. And then the only other thing would be if you have any industry related certifications that you would need to renew on an annual basis, then that would be annually as well. So I hope that helps you, along with my recommendations for the other episodes to watch. And like I did say last episode, I think I will be doing a episode just for employers and what you need to know about having employees. So if you're feeling really confused about the payroll side of it, you can either ask me or wait for that video to come out. And that is pretty much it for today. And that also concludes our entire series of So You Want to Start a Business. And I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope that you've learned something from it. And if you have any questions or concerns or suggestions of what you'd like to hear about next, please let me know. And other than that, I will see you next week.